preparation is obviously very important. And, a lot of people say, well, he got lucky and was able to retire early. No, he didn't get lucky. He was prepared when the opportunity hit, right? Luck is where preparation and opportunity, meet. A lottery winner had to pull into the carryout to go in there and buy the ticket, so to speak.
And welcome into the program. This is your game plan for retirement with Northwestern Ohio's resource for a common sense approach to planning for a more secure and confident financial future. He is, of course, president and founder of McIntire Retirement Services. Chris McIntire here with us. And Chris, since it is back to school season, we thought we would refresh and get back to the basics in our conversation and give us a syllabus for retirement planning. Before the school year, on the first day, the teachers always overview the class, talk what it's going to be about, cover the different sections, and cover what will be most important for the final exam. And this is going to be our syllabus for retirement planning, your report on Are You Ready?
Peter, that's a great tie-in, comparing that to the start of the school year there, my friend. And you about gave me half anxiety too, thinking of all the things that happen when we go back.
Well, you don't have any young ones who are actually going back. I've got a high schooler on my hands, man.
Yeah, well, yeah, there you go. And yeah, my mom was a school teacher, so she was always cranky 2 weeks before the school year started. So
they got to start early.
Yep, absolutely. So, and Peter, we got a nice little note sheet here, if anybody would want to have this here, it says, are you ready to retire? And how would you answer these questions? The first one is, do you know how long you'll be able to generate income if your paycheck stopped today? And, somebody could be out there listening today saying, well, I got a $600,000 401k. That should last me the rest of my life, Well, we would want a better answer than that. When we say income, how much income is that $600,000 generating? Is it parked in a CD at 4%? That's $24,000, okay? And for some of you out there today, maybe $24,000 from investments and your Social Security gets you through. Hey, good for you. You're debt-free and whatnot. Other folks may have a mortgage and they need $48,000, not $24,000. So, some of the important factors to consider, that an investment strategy might not necessarily be an income strategy, is my point, Peter.
And Chris, the way that this particular point on the syllabus, the Are You Ready to Retire syllabus here, the way that number one is worded, I particularly like, because this is really at any point in your career. What if there was an unexpected hiatus in your paycheck, right? Whether there are reductions in force, rounds of layoffs happen unexpectedly in corporations from time to time, accidents, injuries, sickness could take you out. Like, at any point in time, you need to understand and have a plan, the emergency account in place, some income and paycheck replacement. But retirement is intentional, right? We are going to intentionally walk away from those paycheck earning years. And certainly we should have a plan and an understanding of how long our savings, our investments can continue to generate that income for us. That should be mapped out and documented in writing.
Yeah, without question. And, looking at where you're going to get this income from and having it in the plan is very important, because what we want to do, question number two here, Peter, to tie into that is, what's your retirement income gap? So, if your budget is $60,000 a year and 24,000 of it is coming from Social Security, right? Where are we getting the other $36,000 from? And, how do you, do you have Roth IRAs? Do you have traditional IRAs, 401ks? Do you have savings accounts? Is drawing out too much money going to affect your ability to get cheaper health care if you're not on Medicare, right? A lot of folks want to retire at 62 and look poor on paper so that they can qualify for plans in the marketplace or the Affordable Care Act, as we call it.
Yeah, have you specifically planned for that donut hole? And we'll talk about healthcare expenses later on in the syllabus here. But ladies and gentlemen, I do want to remind you before we go any further, Chris already mentioned that if you would like this one-page report, the outline of Are You Ready to Retire? And not, oh, I'm so sick and tired of working, but actually financially prepared for 25 to 30 years of unemployment. Are you ready? This is going to be a bullet point list that you can go over on your own time. It's 12 essential items that you must have addressed if you'd like that report, or if you'd like to formulate the plan to make sure that you have addressed each one of these items. Simply give McIntire Retirement Services a call now, 800-868-1194, 800-868-1194, 800-868-1194. Go ahead and dial that right now. You won't miss too much of the program, but request this list. Get yourself a spot in line, reserve your time for a conversation with Chris and the team there at McIntire Retirement Services, 800-868-1194, 800-868-1194. And again, this report, Are You Ready to Retire? You can get it physically or digitally. They will make that available to you, even if you'd just like to go over that on your own time. So number one, do you know how long you would be able to generate the income you need if your paycheck stopped today? Number two, have you identified and calculated your retirement income gap? Chris, I feel like this number two item is going to be very individually specific. In other words, some people may have monthly expenses of $2,500 a month and be very frugal with their living and covering bills, whereas other people may have expenses of $14,000-$15,000 a month, and therefore that gap is going to range widely from person to person. Do you find that to be the case, and is that part of the planning process here to go back to number one, figuring out how long our money will last?
Yeah, without a doubt, it is, Peter. And, just, in the wide variety of customers that we serve and with all their different specific needs. And, we could probably say, look, we can break them down. There's some stereotypes that, where people fit into some of these molds, and, not that they're cookie cutter by any stretch, but they fit within a range. And so we probably have three ranges, people that really need a lot of income right now, just because of their personal situations. Then we have that range where people don't need, too much income. All the debts are paid off basically, and they're doing some traveling and some other expenses. And then we've got, probably the older clientele where, it's more about, look, how do we protect it from the nursing home? We've kind of done all of our spending. Should we be giving money away? So, a couple of different phases in there. We always talk about buckets on the program: low risk, medium risk, high risk, and then, even income buckets. Don't need much, need some, need a lot. Probably a good way to explain that. And, as we work our way, number three here, it says, do you know how much available in discretionary assets above what you will need to generate income? So, what is left over and above everything? So what we try to do here, Peter, I think in a nutshell is to say, look, let's solve the basic income needs here for everyday living expenses plus a fudge factor. Okay. And then here's all the discretionary assets that we don't need to create that income. And now you really have play money. And I guess one of the good examples here is that 4% rule, right? If you have, again, to use a large number, if you got $1 million and you say, okay, I heard of the 4% rule, which means I can draw $40,000 a year off of it, adjust it for inflation, I can go on and on. Said, yeah, but what if you got an annuity that paid out 7% instead of 4%, right? Now I need significantly less money. I need 600,000, not $1 million. So I just freed up $400,000 on my income portfolio. So, a lot of the knock sometimes on annuities is I don't want to tie my money up. I'm like, well, we just gave you a generic example of that we do every day where we just freed up $400,000.
Right. Yeah. You have set the foundation in place and gave yourself additional available discretionary money, because following the investment model of that 4% rule, Chris, you need the total $1 million. That is all income generation money. Whereas with that higher cash flow rate, we don't need all of the money to generate the same amount of income. You freed up additional money. And I think that's important. I'm going to go with a building analogy here and talk about that foundation. We want a solid foundation in place, right? The baseline to cover living expenses, that needs to be very, very solid. But over time, grounds shift and foundations crack. And for the analogy here for retirement, inflation, taxation, healthcare expenses, right, are some of the things that can form cracks in that foundation. You need some additional discretionary growth money over and above to fill in those cracks throughout the decades of retirement.
Yeah, yeah. And, when we talk about that plan in place there, where we're freeing up dollars, because, some people say, well, I've read this or that about the annuity aspect, and, are they good? Are they bad? Are they indifferent? And then when you walk somebody through the process and you're showing them on the computer screen on a company's website, look, here's how much money it takes to generate this much income contractually guaranteed for you and your spouse for the rest of your life. And it may even have some sort of way to increase the income. Is that here's how much money it would take to do that using the 4% rule, and then the uncertainty of the stock market. And sometimes it's like a light goes off. They're like, I get it. And for you and I'm going to bend down here a minute, so bear with me, David Gaylor wrote that book, Income Allocation, where we talk quite a bit about that. And, we give that book out to a lot of folks, and they finally understand that income allocation is different than asset allocation.
Yep. And that is an important component in understanding the needs in retirement, right, Chris, is that the conditions change. They are exactly opposite. And if we can continue the same behavior in opposite conditions, it's been said, right, that the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over, expecting different results. But what about when we are doing the exact opposite thing and expecting the same results? It would not work. So the approach that we have taken with our money to build and to grow while the money is going in, while we are contributing, may have opposite effects. The dollar cost averaging, the sequence of returns, the distributions instead of making contributions will work against the movements of the market in that case. And that's why we really need to understand the difference between that asset allocation and the income allocation that you try to inform, educate, and really show people how that works.
Yes. Yep. And, Peter, as we work our way through the list here, I wanted to highlight number 4. And it says, do you know if your portfolio is properly diversified to provide enough growth, safety, liquidity, and income? You think about that growth, safety, liquidity, and income. And, a lot of times they'll say, look, there are, a few characteristics of any investment, right? It can provide growth, safety, or liquidity. And if you look at like a CD, well, it can give you growth and safety, but not liquidity. If you look at a stock, it can give you growth and liquidity, but not safety. So, not every investment has the same characteristics. So, that's why you want to, utilize different industries, not just stocks, bonds, and mutual funds, but you want to look at money markets, look at the annuity side of things. So insurance companies, banks, and then the Wall Street kind of model there, to incorporate a lot of things in a very well diversified portfolio. And, diversifying is very important because not all assets rise at the same time. Not all of them fall at the same time. So you want things that are not correlated to one another.
I was going to say correlated. Chris, you've talked about having non-correlated assets. It's really about asset location as much as asset allocation, right? Is that there are different locations and placements for different purposes for different portions of your money. Can you talk a little bit about how that can help somebody time optimize a more strategic and confident retirement, the asset location and segmentation of different portions of money?
Sure. Yeah. Let's look at 2022, for example. They raised interest rates 11 times in a row. terrible year for most stocks, terrible year for bonds. And so everything on the investment side was going down. And if you had to take a required minimum distribution, or if you needed a monthly distribution out of your investment portfolio, boy, that stings to take money out of it when it's going down, obviously. You look at it and every month you're seeing losses. So if you had some cash stashed in a money market account, a CD, or a fixed index annuity, or a fixed annuity, you could have drawn money out of that and maybe not taken it out of your portfolio. So instead of feeding the frenzy of pulling money out of an account that's going down in value, you could have shifted your strategy and pulled out of something that was certainly much safer and taken a little pressure off of the withdrawal rate risk.
And again, we talk about how much can we generate from our portfolio by having that segmentation. It will let you plan and understand and know that to a much higher degree of confidence. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the retirement syllabus, getting ready for retirement, the topics, the subjects that are essential for you to cover, to understand in order to pass the final exam, as we make a parallel here to our back to school season. And we are talking with Chris McIntire. And if you've got questions, concerns, if you would like the Are You Ready to Retire report, or if you would like to make sure that your plan specifically covers all of the items, the essential issues that must be planned for and addressed, pick up the phone, give a call, 800-868-1194. That's 800-868-1194, 800-868-1194. Chris, number 5 on the list. Do you hold regular reviews of your plan to assess if you have met previous goals and benchmarks and set new goals and benchmarks for the years ahead?
Sure. We're charting a path into retirement. So, you want to make sure that you're meeting with your planner, your advisor, to see if you need to adjust the sails. I'm up here on Lake Erie, so that's an easy analogy, because sometimes the wind blows from different directions. So, we have to change course to get to our destination. The destination didn't change. The way we get there, sometimes we need to modify, obviously, because different things happen, right? Just like we said, in 2022, 11 interest rate increases. We needed to look at what other alternatives that folks had in place to take advantage of the economics of that time. And then, now things have somewhat normalized. I know it's volatile always in the third going into the fourth quarter. But you can ebb and flow with economic conditions, and you need to have that flexibility, and you get that from having reviews and keeping everybody accountable.
And Chris, I am sure that there will be a few years where we may have missed a goal or a benchmark, right? The market is down because we know it doesn't go up every year, but how do we then address that and stay on track? And also in those moments, if we have planned appropriately, there may be opportunity, right? Is that even when certain things are not working in the plan, other things can if we have prepared ahead of time.
Yeah, correct. And, preparation is obviously very important. And, a lot of people say, he got lucky and was able to retire early. No, he didn't get lucky. He was prepared when the opportunity hit, right? Luck is where preparation and opportunity, meet. A lottery winner had to pull into the carryout to go in there and buy the ticket, so to speak. But, in retirement is having that plan and putting things in place, because a lot of people will thank us for what we've done for them. I'm like, look, you guys did a lot of the work. We just helped you modify the plan and transition it into the retirement plan. You were disciplined enough to put those money out of your paycheck in, and then when the kids went off to school, you up those contributions. So a lot of people do need to give themselves a pat on the back, that because they did the sacrifice and the discipline to stay with their plan to get to retirement. We help them get through.
Yep. Hard work on both sides of the coin, so to speak. And again, ladies and gentlemen, if you've got questions, concerns, if you would like this 1-page report, this 12 topic bullet point list, the course syllabus for passing retirement, are you ready to retire? Pick up the phone, give Chris McIntire Retirement Services a call, 800-868-1194, 800-868-1194. Halfway through Chris, number 6, have you formulated a plan for how to use Social Security to maximize income and protect your personal assets? I know that the difference in timing on Social Security makes a big difference in cumulative income over retirement, when and how much you're having to tap in and drain personal assets. I know that there's kind of a chart with the break even point that you could map out, but a lot more goes into this important consideration that I don't think we get enough education about a lot of times before we make that decision.
Clearly one of the most important things that people ask us is, when should I take my Social Security benefits? And, there's no one easy answer for it. If somebody's going to retire at 62, and they want to take Social Security because it's less money they have to take out of their investment portfolio, that certainly can make sense. If they, it depends. Are they widowed? Are they divorced? Is it still a married couple? Because we look at survivor benefits. So a number of different factors are going to go into this decision-making process so that you make the best decision for the client that we're working with. And, since none of us know the exact date we're going to pass away, the timing of it is, is something that hindsight will be 2020 on. So you make the best decision with the information that you have in front of you. And, a lot of times if the market is running well, you can delay your Social Security because your investments are going up in value. So you could pull a little bit more off of them and generate more income that way. If the market goes south, then maybe you do turn on your Social Security benefit a year or two early to take pressure off of your investment strategy and lessen the withdrawal rate risk that you have.
And bottom line, Chris, it's money that is either going to come from Social Security, come from our personal assets, or just not be there at all. Of the three, I know which one I would prefer, right? So not the job of the folks down at the Social Security Administration office or the online claiming system to recommend if you are doing it on the best day or making the best choice, because they don't know the rest of your financial situation. That's why you need to educate yourself ahead of time, ladies and gentlemen. Formulate that plan for how to use Social Security. And this is an issue. This is a topic that Chris spends a lot of time with his clients. And if you've got questions about it, if you have not yet made that decision, make sure you get the information and education. Give Chris McIntire Retirement Services a call, 800-868-1194, 800-868-1194. All right, Chris, we sort of hinted at it earlier. Now swinging back to the elephant in the room, so to speak, is, do you know how you would cover the cost of medical and or long-term care expenses should you or your spouse require care? We talked about that donut hole if you want to retire before 65, but that's not by any stretch the only medical expenses we need to plan and prepare for.
Yeah, you know it, buddy. And, we have a lot of personal experience in this one right here on, the cost of loved ones in nursing homes. And, both of Robin and I's parents, we pay for caregivers to come in and help them remain at home. So, significant expenses here, in the thousands of dollars a month. Obviously, the nursing home is incredibly expensive. About $10,000 a month right now. And, Peter, I'm 59 years old. The average age of claim is like 83 years old for long-term care needs. So, what's it going to be in 24 years for me, basically? If inflation is 6%, it's going to be $30,000 a month, right? Because it goes from 10 to 20 to actually it'd be 40,000, believe it or not. So, want to be very, very careful on not having a plan in place, because there's two things that can really derail a retirement plan, going into a nursing home and, the stock market wiping out half your investment portfolio when you need it the most. And you can mitigate both of those risks.
It's a big concern. And right now, markets, obviously, they're at or around all-time highs. So it's a good time to evaluate your risk exposure, because just the market going up like it has means that you are now necessarily taking on more risk if you have not made adjustments. And Chris, as you've stated, interest rates, payout rates, income rates are also at very, very historically high levels. So it's a good time to look at your balance and are you correctly positioned? But again, those medical expenses, that's one of those things that can be a significant crack in the foundation, an earthquake, if you will. How do you cover those? How do you make sure you've got some assets protected? Most importantly, maybe, Chris, for us married folks, how do we make sure that our spouse, our family are protected from the potential costs that we may incur for care? And I know that you've been a good friend and advisor to several different situations, both within your own family, both outside of your family, where you've helped people tackle these issues. And then, Chris, ultimately, that spousal income dependency, number 8 on the list, have you calculated? Do you understand how much income will be lost if you or your spouse pass away? Pensions, Social Securities, they do not remain for a widow or widower sometimes.
Yeah, you're correct. So those boxes that you check off when you retire are very, very important, and sometimes, clients will be hedging their bets and whatnot, and they'll say, look, we want to maximize our pension income. And if I pass away, she's only going to need half of what I was getting. So, all of a sudden now we took a $3,000 a month pensions, now $1,500, and we may have lost a significant portion or all of a Social Security benefit. So those are some, because you don't get 2 Social Security benefits, you only get one. So when somebody passes away, for the purpose of the radio show here, you're typically going to get the highest amount, and lose the smallest, but if the smallest is $1,500 a month, that's $18,000 a year, and that's gone forever.
Yeah. And thinking about this, Chris, when one Social Security disappears, so kind of we'll call it air quotes here, an ideal Social Security situation where both spouses have been high income earners and are claiming their own benefits have maxed them out. That means the widow or widower has a 50% reduction in Social Security income. And maybe a situation on the other end of the spectrum where there's only been one income earner and the other has not been in the workforce, has been a homemaker or raising the children. They get half the benefit of the high income earner, but even that means that there is a 1/3 reduction in Social Security income for the widow or widower to the household. So we've got a plan that there is going to be a hit to that income at some point in time down the road. And Chris, like you said, nobody knows that date.
Yep, you're exactly right. And, hindsight's always 20/20, but, make sure you understand the ramifications of, somebody passing away early, and believe it or not, term life insurance plays a big role in some of these decisions that people make, just to hedge something happening earlier. Like you choose a survivor benefit that's not 100%, hey, do you help kind of bridge that gap with a term policy, over 10 years, just in case somebody died sooner than what you anticipated. And all right, now you got a windfall of income tax-free money. Just generic example there.
Yeah, that should give a spouse some spending confidence and confidence that you will leave an impact for your beneficiaries as well. Chris, just in the sake of time, knew we were probably not going to have time to cover all of these issues, but we have been covering the syllabus, ladies and gentlemen, for passing retirement with confidence. The Are You Ready to Retire checklist. There are 12 items on it. If you would like this report, pick up the phone, give McIntire Retirement Services a call. 800-868-1194, 800-868-1194. Cash flow rates, the supporting your lifestyle, what percentage of your working income you will need to replace. Of course, taxes are also on this list, but the number 12 item, Chris, I want to just quickly cover this, that truly having confidence in retirement, the way that you're going to do that is having a plan put together, probably your best investment.
Yeah, without question, because it gives you some form of a roadmap on expectations that you can have, and then you can come back and see, okay, hey, how far off course are we, 5 years down the road, and do we need to make some adjustments, and sometimes it's a good surprise, not a bad surprise. We should say that as well, buddy.
Well, and right now is a great time to look at it, ladies and gentlemen. So pick up the phone, give a call, talk with Chris and the team there at McIntire Retirement Services. Friendly, helpful, there to serve and assist, and make sure that you've got confidence in your money, in your investments, and in your retirement plan and outlook. So 800-868-1194 is the number to call. 800-868-1194. 800-868-1194. Chris, always appreciate the time. Always helpful, poignant advice and direction here on the program.
Hey, my pleasure to be with you, Peter, and everybody have a great weekend out there. Stay safe, and thanks for listening to the show today.
Tune into Chris McIntire's full radio program and visit McIntireRetirementServices.com for many additional valuable resources, including other great episodes of Game Plan for Retirement with Chris McIntire. Be sure to subscribe.
The content of this radio show is provided for informational purposes only and is not a solicitation or recommendation of any investment strategy. You are encouraged to seek investment, tax, or legal advice from an independent professional advisor. Any investments and/or investment strategies mentioned involve risk, including the possible loss of principal. Advisory services offered through Brookstone Capital Management, a registered investment advisor.
Fiduciary duty extends solely to investment advisory advice and does not extend to other activities such as insurance or broker-dealer services. Advisory clients are charged a quarterly fee for assets under management, while insurance products pay a commission, which may result in a conflict of interest regarding compensation.